Good morning, welcome back to Marty's Tying Bench. This morning I'm putting together kits for this week's Vice Squad, and the pattern this week is a GT Triple Double. This is a pattern that has its roots on the Green River in Utah. It's somewhat of an ant imitation, somewhat of an attractor, and the incorporation of purple is the distinct feature here. It's a good little dry fly. It's hard to see, so often you want to fish it as a dropper behind something else. This is a Dai Riki 730, size 14. You want a little longer shank, and a fine wire will make it a little easier to float. This is a standard wire, but I might try a longer dry fly hook. I've got a whiting saddle hackle, and I like the hackle to be right about the hook gap, maybe a little bit longer, and I avoid ones that are shorter. Now I'm going to tie this in so that it stays up on the straight part of the hook, kind of avoid the bend. It'll give you a better looking hackle when you wrap it. You want to get these turns right next to each other so it doesn't take up much space on the hook. And 2 or 3 is all you need. Now I'm going to get a few security wraps, trim this, and set it aside. We'll use it again on the front part. Now the dubbing on this is black on one end and purple on the other. And you can imagine that you can vary these. Use one of the segments as a hot spot. You can use orange, chartreuse. But we're going to be faithful to the first one I'd heard of 20, 30 years ago, and that was purple. This is black. Now you could obviously tie these segments in either order. You could tie the purple first and the black in the front. I just grabbed the black first. For the middle hackle, I've got another whiting saddle that's a brown. Same length. Now I'm eyeballing this and making sure that I'm putting this pretty much in the middle of the hook shank. Again, 2 or 3 turns is all you need. Now this thing will actually float pretty well. If you stop and think about it, I just put 3 turns in the back, 3 in the middle, and I'll put 2 or 3 on the front. That's like 9 turns of hackle. That's plenty of flotation. Now, for the dubbing in the front, I've got a purple. I honestly don't remember what this specific material is, but any purple dubbing, including ice dub. You just want something that'll stick together so that the ball that you shape here will hold its shape somewhat through a few fish. And maybe just a tiny bit more. When you're tying ant patterns, it's a good idea to have one segment be distinctly bigger than the other. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. Now go back to that same Grizzly saddle. And that's a little bit short. Let me see if I can locate my hackle pliers. And I'm really not paying much attention as to which direction these feathers cup. There we go. 2.5 turns. Now I'm not going to trim that feather yet. I'm going to get my whip finish. So last thing you want is to trim that feather, start your whip finish, and then find out you got a burr on the eye of your hook and your thread breaks. And you got to back up a bit. There we go. GT triple double. In the old days, you used to trim it on the bottom, but this thing's symmetrical anyway. It's on the water, so I'm not sure that there's a reason to trim it on the bottom unless you want those segments to sit right down flush in the surface film. If you get picky fish and slower water, you might want to trim the hackle on the bottom. There you go, GT triple double.